Welcome back from that break. This is Family Hour Monday edition. Like I said, that coming soon, our Wednesday edition of Family Hour is going to rebrand into the Uganda we want. Therefore, be expectant that we shall really have a lot to discuss when it gets to the Uganda we want, the Uganda you would like to see. So when we say the Uganda we want as Ugandans, that is what we shall be discussing on Wednesday, courtesy of the Interreligious Council of Uganda. We are excited to have the Uganda we want here on Church of Uganda Family TV. But Family Hour is also still on a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday and Friday. So always come through as we also watch the Uganda we want. Today is a Monday and we are here with our Monday edition. We are looking at early childhood development. Before the break, we are looking at Canon Alice was taking us through how we were looking at some of how parents can support their children and how caregivers can also support their children, and we realized that these days, Mrs. Kintu, most of the children are in the hands of caregivers. You realize the cares are making a lot of money. So if a parent can't trust their maid, then they take their child to a daycare center where they'll spend the entire day and then they pick them in the evening. I think all in the quest for money. But what are these children missing if it is not the parent's eye that is watching over these children?
What these parents are missing,
the children.
What these children are missing is the parent quality time with them. I try to look back at my own life in relation to the way I raised my children. But I remember that simple tools were used to teach us lots of things. Okay. Simple tools were used to teach us lots of things. Separating colors. You didn't have to know how to write the word yellow. But they could tell you how yellow, mchungwa, yellow, and so on, and you'd learn. So we'd use the everyday things of home. Kakati webakuwa banana, they tell you yellow banana. You have learnt banana, you have learnt yellow. And then you see the child who is maybe 2 and say that or 1. They learn that way. We should use everyday things of life to teach and develop our own children. The toys we use, rather than using the screen, you can use balls, you can use that may not be available anymore. But if you can still teach them how to use, because in order for you to do dole you need to go to the garden and pick a fiber and then tie it up. You may not do a very good job, but it is an interactive activity that will help the child to learn something new. They are going out, they're stepping in the mud, they are touching real fiber, they're not just gadgeting away. So rather than you leaving your child in the hands of a maid because you pay them, in the name of going to make money that will take your child to the best daycare, I think that we need to give more time. Let's invest time. Like I said, time invested in a child is not wasted. Before long, that child will have grown and gone, but you know that I had quality time. I imparted quality values in this child as I taught them the basics. If you're teaching them maybe to write a P, if you're teaching them maybe how to handle a pencil, you said the writing, because that person could not write because they couldn't wash. So their motor skills were limited. So what can you do with a child to help them? They may do volongoto, but at least you have engaged them and involved them in trying to develop themselves. So you as a parent, when you miss out on spending quality time with your child, tulinga abagala okuzaala bombuzi. You know, where you give birth to a child and the next thing you want to see them grown and probably out of university. We must be involved in these little spaces because they are the ones which create who the person will become.
Wow, thank you so much. Canon, we understand that up to now, the National Curriculum Development Center has not yet come up with a syllabus for early child development. They are still building up something that is yet to be released. But we also realize that parents are over demanding when it gets to the kindergartens. For example, they take a child there, and then when they're in baby, the next thing is they're checking their book. The child doesn't come with homework. Our children are always playing. Do we pay school fees for them to play? I mean, the demands are so many from parents, and some schools are also bending a lot to these parental demands because they want to create value for the money that is paid by the parents. But what should be the real thing? What should be what should parents be expecting from a child who has just joined kindergarten at that level?
Before she answers, I have my aunt, who has now long gone to be with the Lord, went in the 60s to UK to study on how to develop an early childhood curriculum. She came back, she wrote a document which I saw with my own eyes and presented it to Ministry of Education. So when you say that up till now we have not, she went in the 60s.
But it has not been effected.
That's sad.
Yeah, it has not been effected.
That's sad for me because that means that we are not paying attention to the most crucial years. The first 5 years of a child will form who they really will become. It will only take a few things to adjust, but the first 5 years are very crucial and key. And here we are as Uganda. We are
Our curriculum starts from the 6th year at P1.
Please go, my sister.
I am yet to substantiate that because at least I know that we have people who are being taught.
Yes, early childhood development.
Exactly, early childhood development. So we are yet to substantiate that if it's whether actually that's what we need as a nation or not. But there's one thing that I would say that I think the reference was coming from the fact that parents are demanding more when a child is 3 years and then you want them to come home with homework.
Speaking good English, writing very well.
Reading a Ladybird book.
In all fairness, at 3, I just want to enjoy myself. At 3, I don't even recognize that Edrin is Edrin. I recognize Edrin as my brother or just a very good friend or a boy. And I only talk about him as a boy if he has hit me. If he has done something that has hurt me. But if we're having a good time, so be it. But as we are doing all that, there are so many things that we are learning. We are learning the motor skills are being strengthened because probably at home we are 2 or 3 and we don't enjoy the running and jumping around. That's why when you go to preschool, the first thing that they do in the morning is an activity for motor skills. They jump around, they dance, they enjoy. But in the process, they're also building the muscles. Would you want to have a child whose muscles are not well formed? No. So I strongly believe, it's at that time, she was talking about a yellow banana, right? I don't care whether you know how to write banana, but at least you know that a banana is yellow, right? Or it's a red apple. And the teacher brings the red apple and you can recognize. So symbolic thinking starts at that time. So whatever, we should appreciate that growth is a process. She talked about mbumbuzi. No, it is a process. We talked about observation. Let's be keen that when they bring maybe the alphabetical letters and they put the A and they put the red apple, that my child can be able to recognize it's a red apple without knowing whether they write it this way or not. Because if they cannot recognize the red apple, it is communicating to me, what is this? And they can't say it's a red apple, then say, no, I think I have a problem here. That is what should be addressed. Because at that stage, it is symbolic thinking. It is interaction. sharing and caring. That is what we are talking about at that stage of 3. We're not talking about homework.
So
Right.
on behalf of all the children who are under 5,
Yes.
we are asking that you cut them some slack.
Exactly.
Don't try to make your child do a P7 paper
Exactly.
when they are
When they are
P1.
3 years.
Yeah.
Because the time for the P7 paper is actually coming. Let's allow our children to grow the way they are meant to grow. And one of the things that has become extremely detrimental is the exposure. When it comes to technology, it's kind of, the openness of the mind is wild, which shouldn't be. They should know just enough for them to be celebrated at that stage.
Okay. Talking about development still, what is the capacity of the brain? How much can this child take in, especially at that tender age, especially in preschool?
These people who are trained teachers will tell you that concentration lasts, the attention span is 3 minutes or 2?
3 or 2 minutes.
3 minutes,
Wow.
you know?
Yes.
That is the real attention span. So that means that this teacher should be able to change every 3 minutes into some new activity. Because you give me this paper to look at for the first 3 minutes, then afterwards, it's like it's not even there. I need something else to interest me. So we also must give some more money to the people who stay with our children, especially in daycare.
In daycare, yeah.
Because they work around the clock. They work so hard to ensure that the children remain active and alert. That's why there's a lot of things involved. There's sleeping, playing, dancing, singing,
Even going to the washroom is an activity.
yeah,
Oh.
Yes.
and washing hands.
And washing hands is an activity. So the teacher goes with these children to the washroom. They do whatever they have to do. They make sure this is how I am cleaned. They come, they wash their hands. Don't you see how young children are excited when they come, I have washed my hands.
Yes,
I have washed my
yes.
Or even when they are going to eat, they come back, I have washed my hands. How many of you have washed your hands? I've washed my hands. Because they're now preparing. Can we open the container?
Auntie, this one is eating
Eating
without praying.
without praying.
You know, those are little things, but they're all being taught at that time. First 5 years are very crucial. And so I want to encourage all of us parents. We should pay more attention in those first 5 years.
Well, I'm realizing that this is the most neglected time, because this is a time where a parent will leave, and these days actually, so funny that parents are now opting to getting maids that can speak English, so that maybe they can speak some English with their children. Canon, is that a remedy to
No,
replace
it's not a remedy.
development?
I'll tell you. There's a friend of mine who was sharing with me and said, when I took my child to school, she couldn't speak a word. I said, what are you talking about? Let the child learn in their local language when they go to school. Because they grasp everything. Before you know, they'll be speaking to you in English. You don't need a maid who speaks in English for your child to be able to adapt. You know, the rate of adaptability for a child is very high.
Up there.
Up there. So we shouldn't be worried about anything when it comes to adaptability.
And who told us that the only way you can tell that a child is developing is if they can speak
They can
English?
speak good English.
Really?
The trend.
No, that's the trend, but are we walking in a trend? Let's be sensible parents, really. I'm sorry to sound but I mean, that's exactly what I mean. Your child's ability to speak English does not identify her or him as an intelligent child. That's not what it is. Yeah.
And we have many of them who actually, because they stay, in front of these cartoons, they actually speak like how those cartoons speak. Why? Because of the level of adaptability. But there's also this one other thing that is very, very important. If we interrupt the process of growth, this is where we get these mistakes. When my child was in P1, they were doing math very well, but now they're failing math. You were not observant enough to have an understanding the capabilities of your child.
Wow.
So I would want us to encourage all of us as parents, even as grandparents, when it comes to parental investment in the process of a child's growth, irrespective whether it's at home or at school. I have seen parents who are quite intentional, picking and dropping their children. And as they are going, they begin to listen into the conversations because those children are too loud. They will say whatever comes to mind. Mommy, this happened and this happened. I enjoyed it most when I was picking them from school, because by the time you get home, you already know the details of what the teachers what they did. At that time, I remember the news on book Agatari Konfu had started, and of course, because of the many stories, the gruesome experiences, most of the people, when they would come to work, they would start off with those stories of Bamutomedi. Now, my daughter, she went and told the grandmother, "Man, Jeje, our teachers are always talking about Bukit, those bad stories." And for us, it spoke. You know, even when you're sharing with the teacher, you come and whisper to them. You know, when you're having these conversations, you know. But it is because once it is informative, once you are observant, because my mother called me and told me that, right? For me, it was excellent. Oh, this is what happens. And then maybe they're not even doing it in bad faith. Probably it's break time. But then the little girls and boys are listening in because of the experiences at that time.
And they're sponges at that time. They suck in everything.
Everything, right? So when we are observant, when we are ready to invest, we are going to help our children grow in the right way. You know, at that time, at that stage, we help them so they become their best version at every stage. When they are toddlers, we help them. When they're in preschool, we help them. As young teenagers, we help them because we are attentive enough to know the detail of what's happening in their lives.
But also, we have said, because you can see the stages, the different stages of growth that are happening to your child, explain it. Explain it to them in age-appropriate language, so that they are in the clear and in the know about what it is that is happening. Sometimes we think that they will understand. Sometimes we think that they don't need to be explained to. But if you use age-appropriate language and help them to understand at each stage what is happening, it will be easy for you because you will have learned the art of communicating with your child. Even when you get into this difficult, quote-unquote, difficult stage of teenage, when they prefer to stay in their rooms, they will be quick to come and talk to you because they know we have cultivated a culture of being able to communicate with each other easily.
Wow. Mrs. Kintu, let me start from here. What are your parting shots?
Parting shots. For me, I wish I could go back to the first 5 years of each of my children. Maybe I'll do things a little bit different because I know how much impact those years create in the rest of a person's life. So I want to encourage you parents who are still privileged. There are many things that I wish I knew before I went through that. But you people are privileged to sit in and listen to such a conversation, which never used to happen perhaps. So make valuable time with your children in those first 5 years because you are helping them to form the rest of their lives.
Wow, thank you so much. Canon Alice, what are your closing remarks?
My closing remarks will anchor in a biblical verse, right? Where the Bible talks about in Luke 2, I think it's 51, that and the child grew, right? So let's respect the process of growth. But they inform us of what this child looked like. He grew. In physically, he grew. In wisdom, he grew. That was stature. In wisdom. In the fear of God.
The fear of the Lord.
In the faith, and then he earned favor before God and man. So for me, the child, this growing child, let's do the investment. Let's see a child who is growing physically, mentally, and spiritually. So that at the end of the day, we see a child who is highly favored, not only by God, but by man. In the last program, what did we say? A bad child, naye omwana omulungi is for the community. Omwana waffe. So let's raise omwana Wafe.
Wow, thank you so much, Canon Alice. Thank you so much, Mrs. Kintu, and thank you so much, you viewer. Wow.
You're taking notes.
You're taking notes.
I was taking notes, but hey, mwana wafe, si mwana wange. Well, this is really interesting, and I believe you who is watching us, you've really learned something. If not everything, at least something that can help you out, especially when you are raising your little ones.
Yeah, but we want to say this on national television.
Okay.
You are sucking in and filling up your cup on things that you really should be applying. So we want to challenge you to put these things into action. And the only way you can do that, God bless you.
Amen. Adrian Austin Mukala is my name. I've worked with Andrew, I've worked with Mumuza, and very many other people out there that you never see on your screen. Yet, they do a lot to see that you have this show. From the entire team, good night. We meet again tomorrow.